Hi, this is Paul. On top of the conversations I've been doing, again, two major conversations this week with Jonathan Peugeot and Martin Shaw, on top of all the new Randos conversations, most of them going on offline from the supporter section, the corner has just been popping. On top of weekly Estuary at Living Stones. So if you're in Sacramento, oftentimes people come to Sacramento and they want to meet me. Part of what was in the back of my head, one of the ideas behind weekly Estuary is that if you come to Living Stones, you can hear me preach and shake hands with the other people at Living Stones, but you can also, now if there's Sunday morning Estuary, you can come at 9 o'clock and, probably have a shot if everybody in the Estuary wants to hear what you are thinking about, having a conversation. So there's just a ton going on. There's just a ton going on. At the end of this video, I'm going to drop in this. One of the things that's happening, I can't finish my darn sentences. It always seems like something new is emerging. And so about a year ago or so, the Jacobs innovation of just chatting took off, and that led to a lot of these live streaming channels. And Luke, who's had a YouTube channel, who's done Voxer, Luke is definitely a This Little Corner OG, has been quite regularly now doing live streams on Grail Country. And they're very much Luke. He usually sort of starts off with some of his thoughts for the day, and they're totally Luke. And then he drops in the link and opens up the chat, and people come in. And it was just wonderful. And we talked about what's going on in the corner. Let me, before I get too far, because this is a little disconnected, but it's totally connected in that Jai West, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, sent me a DM on Twitter and said, I've been following the corner and I'm into this. And he made a video which it's poetic and it's jaw-dropping. Let me just play a little bit for you, and I'll leave the link below, and just get a sense of what he's put into this. It's just stunning.
I was thinking, heights and women my two fears. The brain has two hemispheres. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, but only 1 mouth. Kotodama, magic words. 陰陽は2匹の竜。逆あるから存在する。Light and dark, zen と悪。Love and hate, choice and fate. 矛盾でごめん, forgive the contradictions. Ladies and gentlemen, Anima and Animus. 物語の物語について話したいと思います。I am actor. すなわち無双家。Professional dreamer who acts out stories. 我々は物語に憧れ。The more attracted 何かに惹かれ。The more meaning そこに深い意味。Stories give us knowledge to survive. そこに真実。
So I didn't have the CC on, but you can see the English from the Japanese, and I was just speechless. And this sort of following the convivium poetry, which I still haven't gotten through all the talks there. Some in the corner say, well, people should be doing things. Well, people are doing things. I think that's one of the elements of it. And it takes time, and there are things that sort of emerge. And now not everybody is as much of a poet and an artist as this, but it's absolutely stunning. So Chris made another video, and I thought he completely captured for me what this is about. He watched the Grail country conversation where I'll just play a little bit of it.
I want you to be friends with my friend's husband. I'm like, okay, I have a YouTube channel. If they will watch my YouTube videos, we can be friends. That's like because I don't want to talk about golf, and I don't want to talk about college football, and I don't want to talk about whatever the guys that wear polo shirts and sit in an office do for work, because I can't relate to that at all. So
Michael just nails it in the live stream. And when I started the Jordan Peterson meetup in January of 2018, that was a lot of it. There were a lot of guys who came in. Those who were married came in and said, I found Jordan Peterson. I tried to talk to my wife about him. And after I got a little ways in, she just said, I don't want to talk to you about this. And so that's where we've come. Yesterday, for I think the second time in 6 years, muted a commenter. The third time. The first guy was just sort of spewing some Nazi stuff, so I muted him. And then another guy was on the Freddie and Paul show saying unkind things about Freddie, so I muted him. And the third guy has been making snide comments for about 6 years. And I don't mind critical comments. In fact, I like critical comments because I learn from them. But this guy had just he was just being a troll, and so all right, I decided to mute him. And I go back and forth on that. And there's someone else I might do a video on one of his recent comments, because it just tends to be dismissive, non-serious. And if there's anything that I think some of us have learned to value here, it's we want to hear each other. And you can have a different perspective. That is totally cool. But at least, try and listen. At least try and listen. And listening is hard. And so
unless if they like playing music, building stuff, or reading, C.S. Lewis sci-fi books and other weird stuff, it's going to be a boring conversation for me, So, but I mean, I also think just some of this was I feel like God's calling me to do this thing. And I think that the valuable thing of this is putting my weakness.
Okay. So that was what Michael said. This whole notion of
and I'm not going to play all of Chris's video. You should go to Chris's channel and you should subscribe and you should watch what Chris is doing. I don't know if he'll make a lot of videos. I don't know if this will be his last video. He says he wants to keep making more. He's got kind of an artistic side, but then he told a story. And if there's anything that you should know about the Randos conversations and what I love, I will definitely sit for a story, and especially a story like this.
But when Michael brought that up about not wanting to talk about golf and not wanting to talk about college football, this sort of idea popped in my head of, I imagine being at a party and I'm standing on the edge because that's what introverts do. And I'm comfortable there. But there's a group of people and they're all having a conversation. They're all talking really loudly. And I can hear everything that they're saying. And they're not talking about golf. And they're not talking about college football. They're talking about all the very fun and interesting things that I like to talk about. And I guess this has just made me think of my mother-in-law. She was one of the few people who I could have these kind of conversations with. And not last Christmas, but the year before that, she had asked to spend the night on Christmas Eve to watch the kids open up their Christmas presents. And, at this time we had just found out that she had cancer. And, she lived with us ever after that day. Actually, we set her up in this room that I'm sitting in right now. And just something about today just made me really think about her. And like I said, these are the kind of conversations that I really enjoyed having with her. I just remember sitting in the driveway in our 0G chairs, looking at the stars, and we could be talking about God one minute and then talking about aliens the next, and Atlantis and quantum physics, and she'd always just listen to all the crazy stuff that I like to talk about, even if she didn't have a clue what I was saying. And so I guess that's where I'm getting at, is that what I want to do in this space is I'm interested in having some of those conversations again. I had one with Jonathan last night, and I couldn't even tell you, Jonathan Demir, I couldn't even tell you what it was about. It went all over the place, and it was just one of those interesting conversations.
Now, this is what Estuary is about. This is what this little corner is about. I mean, I get messages, is this going anywhere? I don't know. But this is what we do. We talk to each other. Strange Theology, another little channel in the corner, also picked up on the same live stream. And again, these live streams, you don't know who's going to pop in. You don't know, but that's part of the spontaneity about it. And why do we come? We come together to talk, and sometimes it's hard to find others, but
curious to find out if genuine community is possible across a digital landscape. It seems like most of the platforms kind of silo people into their own echo chambers because it's just easier to interact. But humanity has always been in a quest for unity amidst diversity. Now, is that actually possible? So I want to watch this clip from Grail Country because I think what they are discussing is actually very important to like our modern quest for genuine community.
Real quick, this is a very type
and Tayo was in there, and
the conversation for me particularly because I'm thinking about starting a channel and thinking about how to go about doing that. I've got an interview with Justin on Saturday, and for the last since Chino, he's been the one I've been speaking to about and I actually
now again, part of the difficulty is this is an inside thing. So he's talking about Justin Wells, who is working on at least one documentary about this little corner, and teaches documentary filmmaking. He's Justin's Morning Coffee is his YouTube channel. He does story structure.
actually spoke to Cassidy first about this, about going from being a consumer to a creator.
Yep.
And she gives some really good advice.
So that is a good instinct right there. One thought that I have in relationship to that is how much you consume versus how much you create. Now, probably most people consume far more content than they create. And the push there, maybe the, is this wisdom, best practices would be try to create as much as you consume or even more than you consume to have an.
And I don't know if I agree with that. I think a lot depends on exactly what, and because I'm not sure that the channel can only bear so much. And as Chris talked about in his first video, it's a real disappointment. And a lot of people have made little channels, but similar to what I just posted on the channel today, or my conversation with Gabriel Stuckey, who is making these maps. And again, I think it's figure out how, I mean, you don't have to make a video. Hardly any of us can make a video like Jai West can. I mean, just phenomenal what he did there. How he integrated the poetry and the cinematography. It's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. 25 subscribers, 162 views, and this is after I posted it on Twitter. I think it had about 110 when I first watched it. Wow. So I think the spirit, and I think is right. And maybe what you make won't be on the internet. That's fine. Believe me, it's probably better. But maybe just the people in your estuary will know, or maybe just the people in your church will know, or maybe just your family will know. But make something. And maybe the thing you're making is a family. Maybe the thing you're making is a business. Maybe the thing you're making, but make something. I also thought this morning how most of us, again, are men. And not all men, but one of the things that I'm going to post is at some point I want to rewatch it, maybe make some clips, because again, as you've seen, I've been making more little clips of things, because part of what happens is that I have all these conversations and then I forget, and what making clips helps me do is sort of remember some of the points within them. I mean, I sort of automatically do that, but it's just sort of helps me cement things. And often I'll have a conversation, it'll be like, I know Grim Grizz and Broken Clock Tower Discord is always working on these similar things too. But, you know, getting it out there, and part of what's been happening as we are outsourcing our cognition both to the internet and through the internet to each other, is that, as so often happens, images and memory are so deeply tied together and to one another. And so if you make something, you bring it, you give it a reality that it would not probably normally have. If that's the best way to say it. So links to all these channels are below, as they usually are, and links to all these videos are below, as they usually are. And again, part of the reason I started every week Estuary at Living Stones at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings was I said there are 3 times to start things in the church. September, January, and sometimes June. Now, June, July is when you usually do a summer thing. It usually has to be sort of a summer thing. But January is a time when we sort of restart things. And that could be part of the reason that we're seeing this upsurge in reflection on what this is about. I know Grim and Chad just did a conversation that was recorded. I saw it on Chad's channel, and that looked good, but I haven't watched the whole thing, so I didn't include it here, but maybe, yeah. So, and again, as Chris noted, part of the beauty here are all the little channels. And I think the smallness, so for example, on Just Chatting on Grail Country, usually we'll have less than 30, often less than 20 people. Grim Grizz will have less than 20 people. And I know people get excited about big numbers, but big numbers are complexities and problems too. And so don't be afraid to start something small. I was super excited about the Convivian conference. I don't know how many people actually went, but to do a conference for 20, 30 people, if you can figure out how to do it basically economically to make it work, that's a great thing. When we did the Chino conference, we had 200 people. I was glad we didn't have more. I know Jacob's going to hate that I said that, but it's true. When we did Thunder Bay, we had about 150 people. I was glad we didn't have more. At the Washington, D.C. conference, we had 30, 40, 50 people. I was happy we didn't have more. Small spaces. One of the things, 2 things that came out also in Chris's video is he's talking about introverts. A lot of the people, probably 50% of people in the corner are introverts, if not more. And so there's a fair amount of watching. Okay. Don't just watch, though. And doesn't mean you have to do anything now. When I look at this video, this was not a work of impulse. This was a work of measured contemplation, artistry, planning. Wow. It's an incredible, incredible piece of work. So, yeah, be a maker. Be a maker. Anyway, that's enough for now. I'm going to drop the recording of the at least the part that I participated in on the Grail Country video. I could have sort of live streamed it while we were doing it, but again, that'll give you a little taste of drop in. Subscribe to some of these channels. Drop in when they're just chatting. Participate in the live chat, the hive mind, as Grim calls it. Let people know who you are and what you're doing, and make something. You can make a comment.
Sort of layer of foundation, you could start building something on top of that. But I think we're still in the mapping stage.
So to circle back to kind of my beginning thought, and there are people in this little corner. So here's kind of one of my beefs, and I don't know if this is just personal preference or if there's something more than that to this. There are people in this little corner who seem to me to be more concerned about building a platform than about the people in the corner.
I hear what you're saying. It's hard for me to see that just because of the nature of this little corner. There's not like aside from Grim Grizz, who does his branding, it's not like you have people over here. At least I don't hear like a Patreon conversation. I don't hear a lot of like and subscribe conversations, talk, or people are sort of hungry for clicks. At least I don't feel that way. So I can't tell you that I see that. If anything, I see more of a lot of love. I see faces on Grail Country and faces on Just Chatting and on Jacob's channel and on Paul's channel and on Cassidy's channel. And I see a lot of really open borders, so to speak.
Yeah. What up, Trey?
Real quick, this is a very timely conversation for me, particularly because I'm thinking about starting a channel and thinking about how to go about doing that. I've got an interview with Justin on Saturday, and since Chino, he's been the one I've been speaking to about, and I actually spoke to Cassidy first about this, about going from being a consumer to a creator.
Yep.
And she gives some really good advice, but it's something that I've really wrestled with. Firstly, because what is this little corner? What do I want to bring to it? There are so many voices already, so many people with playing the elephant game that it's getting to a point now where I don't think we need any more channels, and I don't know if my channel is going to bring any more clarity to the mess that we're already in. But I do want to play. I want to participate. I've done that by coming on channels like this, on Randos, Jacob's channel, Mark's channel, and that level of participation is fine, and that level of participation gets you involved in the conversation. But I don't want to do that. I don't want my channel to be just another channel where people can go on to tell their story, even though I think story is the most important thing. I think we need to start I think the creative people in this little corner need to start showing their creativity, because we don't all just want to be talking heads or want our channels to be talking heads on the screen. And that's why I took a little bit of an issue with what you're proposing, Luke, which is, we just want to be back, stripped back, us to be acoustic. There's no presentation, no jazzing things up. It's like, no, please, someone jazz things up, because I'm tired of looking at just heads on the screen. Please.
That's the artist in you, Teo. And I struggle with the same thing, because I'm a filmmaker. I'm trained at it. I understand what a camera can do and what these different techniques that have been built through this experiment of filmmaking, which is actually a very young art form, can do to change the perception of things. And because you know that, it almost makes it harder to understand how do you participate in YouTube, where basically everybody is greenlighting their own projects with no gatekeepers. There's a beauty in that because it really opens you up to experimentation and play. But then there's this other sort of dark side that I don't think we've fully felt the extremes of, is that you now have people monetizing their life. You see this most specifically with like vloggers or like family YouTube channels, where all of a sudden every moment with your kid becomes a potential piece of content. And I think a lot of people frame that. It's like, I'm helping people. I can connect with people. We don't have people who are helping us, you know, connect to what it is to be like a mother or a father in a modern age. And I could be a good example of that. But now all of a sudden you've corrupted this thing that is so precious. And I think why I'm interested in that sort of phenomenon is that I think it's very, that same stream lies within what we do here, because we rely so much on vulnerable currency and personal stories, that all of a sudden it's like my lived experience becomes content or fodder for people. And like, how do we engage with that well? Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I don't know. I struggle with that too. But yeah, I think the answer is in beauty somewhere, but that might be the artist in me too.
Yeah, I'm wondering what McMo is saying, art over content, and good conversation is art. So then what is art? Because, and part of this is just maybe my personality. Like, I'm an Enneagram 4. I like things that doesn't translate easily. You know, I like Terrence Malick. I love Terrence Malick films. Like, those are not Marvel. You know, like, those don't appeal to a lot of people. Like, most people would never. I've made my favorite movie's Tree of Life. I've made a lot of people watch it or ask them to, and then they say, "Why did you make me waste 2 hours of my life?" And I have no idea what that was about. And I'm like, I don't know, like, that changed my life because it changed my life. So I don't know. That's probably part of my thing. Is I feel like if I make myself easily appealing, then I'm not saving the appearances. You're just liking the presentation. You don't like me.
But you can be intentional with the presentation. The presentation can lead to be a way that opens you up differently to someone else. So I don't know. When Chad, it doesn't do it as often anymore. It does the news, like a news catch up of the corner, and I think that was one of the best thing in this corner, because through that you can see Chad's sense of humor. You can see the things he's paying attention to, and it's fun. It's funny.
Yeah. Well, and maybe to your point. So this is I'm hearing my own inner critic now, because you say that is. So like, my wife has no interest in any of this stuff. Like, it was hilarious the other day because I was recording this longer audio message for a bunch of friends and just like riffing off all these different things that I say. And at some point in there, like, I said Sky Daddy, and Jen and my wife laughed. And then and then afterwards, I was just like, I was interacting with her, and she's like, the only thing I heard was Sky Daddy. That was the only thing she heard. But to your point about Chad, like, she hears me talking about a lot of this stuff, and she has no interest in any of it. But like, she would totally hang out and meet with Chad in real life because she saw his Dance Monkey video, and she thought it was funny, you know. So
Luke,
I don't know.
I'm thinking about something Tayo said about, you know, the challenges of opening up, starting a new channel, and, you know, becoming a creator. I mentioned this in a previous comment, but I want to try to go with this for a second. You know, with Eve and Adam, we just have created people, but they're not creators yet until they have Cain, right? Which then upgrades them to this level of creator. And then there's like another sense of responsibility. Like, we see one of the reasons for the fall is a lack of communication between Adam and Eve. And then we see with Cain and Abel, We see they're working. There's brothership ready. They're trying to talk to each other, but again, there's a fail. And that continues all the way till the story of Joseph with his brothers, which ends with the fact that even his brothers that hated him, ultimately, at the end of the day, because of proper communication at the end, there's love. And we managed to move forward and then start basically the book of Exodus and start our history. My point being is that these presentations and Tatayo starting a channel in a certain sense, obviously is very different, and Cassidy, take no offense to this, but like having a child or bringing something into this world requires responsibility, and you don't want to be just letting loose something that makes no sense or doesn't know. You have to teach it how to walk and teach it how to speak and speak properly. But that is, if done properly, you are creating another avenue of proper communication. And I think a lot of what we see in this little corner, which is very healthy, is how different views, different ideas, different people globally can still interact and talk and understand each other. And we see that in leadership around the world, politically speaking, and even in the culture, there's a complete breakdown of communication and of people understanding each other. And you were talking about this about your daughter, even the use of the term literally, right? Like now in the dictionary, literally means figuratively, right? So we're living in a topsy-turvy kind of world. And I think there are many people that are looking out there to see how proper communication happens. How do you disagree? How do you make room for the other person? So to Tayo's point, I'm with you that you want to see more creativity, and it's not you don't want to just see talking heads, but there's something about the phenomenon of, for the last few years, there's been these talking heads, and the drama, relatively speaking, has been kept pretty low, and the communication and love between people has grown, and there's events going on over here. So that is a model that many people should be sought after.
Because don't you think the talking head phenomenon is like the politics, where it's just like trying to win, trying to score points? Like that is the mammon game. Whereas these long form conversations are not the talking head thing. It's the opposite of that. I'm not trying to win.
And I just want to say, I'm not anti the long form. I do the long form because I think there is beauty in it. And I purposely choose not to do high quality equipment, because the minute you put in a light and a high quality camera, it changes the dynamic of how you're going to talk to someone. Like there's just parts of that. And so for me, beauty is not just creative excellence. There's something more. But yeah, it's sort of, you're always having to address things, like what that means and what that looks like, and what's beautiful to one person, what they can do with information, art, the same kind of beauty.
Part of what Chris did. Oh, I'm sorry. Part of what Chris did with Waves of Obsession, with that video that sort of broke through. There are a lot of people who've started their own little channel, and most of us don't see them. But he actually did something. It wasn't just his talking head. You know, he did edit. He did bring other things in, and so I think that's sort of my middle ground with Tayo here. That he did something creative rather than just another YouTube monologue. And so I think that was part of the reason that moment sort of whooshed on us, because he had sort of, we hadn't seen him before, but he clearly had watched a lot of Grizz, had watched a lot of me, had watched a lot of us. And so then he kind of took it and added some of his own personal stuff. And so in that sense, the bar keeps getting higher, which adds to this dynamic, Luke, that you started talking out with, that as the community grows, bars get higher and your price of entry, keeps getting higher, which then suddenly you have a hierarchy.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say this. So 2 things. Do you know who this person is? Have you seen this pop up in your YouTube yet? This guy? This little
No, I didn't, but then I asked him, because he didn't know anything about this. Again, this is part of the bar getting higher, because of course, many of us know the story between the first German festival
the Bridges of Meaning Hub channel, which became Friday Morning Nameless. So then I saw this little corner hub channel, and I thought, oh, it's it's happening again.
Right. And Tayo, I would just encourage you too. Like, I think, yes, we don't necessarily just need more talking, and that's not necessarily everybody's interest or gift. And so there's other things that we can do. Like there's probably, we need a multiplicity. If this is a true body, there's going to be different members doing different things. However, whatever your gift is, your voice it's fundamentally unique. It's fundamentally you. So whatever your thing is, nobody else can do that, I would argue. Because I mean, you're your own particular unique gift.
Yeah, thanks. And on just to add quickly before I have to head off, on that note, there are some people in this corner I've been watching enough to realize it's a talent to just turn the camera on and just speak. Some people are able to do that. I'm more of an internal processor, so most of the videos that I've tried to record is just me. Like 30 seconds before I can say what is I need to say. So I don't think that mode would be a way that I can express myself or my thoughts. But I do appreciate the people like yourself, Luke, like Paul Vanderklay, who are able to just rapid fire, go.
Yeah, Paul and I, he always says it's his ADHD or whatever, ADD, but I have too many thoughts. Like I'm thinking 4 things at once. Like it's too much. Michael, what up, buddy?
Well, I see this whole thing as, I'm in the same boat as probably everybody else here. And, when I first talked with Paul, when I had my Randos conversation with him, I said, like, I had started a channel, and part of it was, like, I'm an introvert by nature. I deeply, depending on however you do these things, like I'm like a people-oriented introvert. So I'm not the life of the party, but I want to have a deep friendship with everybody that I actually spend time with. I want to, and so some of it is like a scary thing, because like, yeah, the first time, like, going up there and like putting stuff out there is awkward, just talking in front of a camera, and a lot of this stuff, it was like, I started off basically. I looked at like how everybody was doing stuff, and I didn't know the first thing about doing this, but I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at like figuring out how to do stuff, so I'll try to like make stuff that's a little more polished or thoughtful. I would usually try to like write stuff first or whatever, because that's just like writing for me is like the best way for me to really solidify my own thoughts on a subject. And so then once I kind of had something, try to put together whatever, and I'm not gonna lie, I would like to have more comments and I would like to have more comments than views, because that's what I want. I want more real engagement. I'm super happy that I've gotten to know some people and like make some real friends, and like, like the people that like I'm having, if I'm having a real phone conversation with somebody that's not on the internet, then it's like, well, that's real friendship to me. At least that's that's the litmus test for if it's real. And unfortunately, I'm not super nearby a lot of other people. I've had one guy who came visited, and he was thinking about moving here, and he actually ended up moving to Austin, but like him and his wife came over and had dinner, and that was really cool. So like that is all the stuff I want. Actually, I tell my wife is, because she's super extroverted, and so I just say, because she always has these other women that she wants to hang out with, and she's always like, I want you to be friends with my friend's husband. I'm like, okay, I have a YouTube channel. If they will watch my YouTube videos, we can be friends. That's like because I don't want to talk about golf, and I don't want to talk about college football, and I don't want to talk about whatever the guys that wear polo shirts and sit in an office do for work, because I can't relate to that at all. So unless if they like playing music, building stuff, or reading, C.S. Lewis sci-fi books and other weird stuff, like it's going to be a boring conversation for me, So, but I mean, I also think just like, some of this was like, I feel like God's calling me to do this thing. And I think that the valuable thing of this is putting my weaknesses, my failures, and my mistakes are some of the most valuable things that God can use to reach other people. And so I'm grateful that this kind of corner environment is more, open to forefronting those things. Sometimes it's weird because my mom just always wants to pay attention to what I'm doing. So I don't know, which I'm a little uncomfortable with. But honestly, if you dig deep in my channel, there's some pretty straightforward and personal stuff. And I know that I'm not the only person that deals with that stuff. So it's like, I kind of feel like we have this thing where everybody grew up in a family that they thought was normal, and it was actually super weird and had all sorts of unhealthy stuff. But we don't talk about it as a society, so everybody just goes around assuming everybody else is normal and not weird. And the kind of thing that's good about like what's happening on the internet is like that people are figuring this stuff out. Like all the weird discourse about like people trying to figure out how to like find a marriage partner and stuff is like so weird. And it's like, but it's necessary because we don't have church mixers, or you don't have the girl from the farm down the road or whatever. Like we don't have that stuff, so we got to do new stuff, and the only way it's going to address the problems is for people to spill it out. So but I think there is like, I don't know, there is that Paul's talked about it. Like you can't just always do the sucky laptop camera video. Like if you keep doing it, like it's
like
natural.
this.
It's natural to want to get a little better at it or whatever, So
I tell you what, if I tell my wife that I need to buy a new laptop with and like a new camera and one of those round things, and need to make myself pretty, she's gonna just be like, "This is out of control. This is already out of control. This is really out of control."
You need a second camera for push-up view. What you need, sir.
No.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Kathy.
No, go ahead.
It's the first thing is that TLC Hub guy. I hate him already. I'm positive they didn't contact anybody about stealing the image that was given to me as branding.
No.
And like, you can't come on as a nobody and like, hey, I'm this now. You gotta like run it by people. I'm gonna do this, guys.
Who do you have to run it by? Fountains of Comfort?
Just let us know. I mean, it's just like it could be an agent,
That's what I was wondering. I'm just like, who is this? What is going on?
Yeah, see, if we don't know who you are, how are you? What? No, how is that possible? But I'm forgiving. The important thing, I think, for anybody that's wanting to get involved in this way is like, first of all, you got to make sure you don't want a YouTube channel. You don't. It's like I'm gonna start a YouTube channel and I'm gonna get monetized and it's gonna be huge. It's who are you doing it for? Who are you serving? When I got going, it was because there was all these people watching Pastor Paul, and it was like those people need to see each other, and it's like, I don't know, it's the motives for doing it and why you're doing it's important, but who do you think you're helping? It's like, I just want to play is one thing. But if you just want to play, you can do it here. You can throw your ideas in these. I don't know. It's an exciting and terrifying time because a lot of people are gonna like. There's a lot of ego wounding is gonna happen with all this encouragement.
That won't happen
out lately.
That won't happen with people like me and Chad.
So I decided that I have to be the counterballast to this get started and play thing. However, if you're on the Broken Clock Tower Discord, if somebody could take over the Reaper Harvest for me, that'd be great. Because that's the beholder function of like a lot of people are watching a lot of different stuff, and it's like the harvest. The finding the wheat and bringing it together is actually very valuable, but it takes a lot of work to run all the clips together.
So how does that work? Because I just I'm sure there's like a way that you have outlined to do that in the Reaper thing. I just timestamp them in the comments.
Well, then somebody has to go and actually make the clips. There's actually a clip button on your phones if you want to grab it.
I do that occasionally too when I want to just immediately send it.
Once they added that feature, there's this section called the clip stream. So it's like if you're watching a video and there's like one really good thing, you can grab it and throw it in the clip stream. And then ideally, if it's an awesome video with like 8 or 9 different things, we don't want to see 8 different things in the clip stream from that video. That's more of a take it to the side and throw it on the loom and run them together as a different project. The clip stream is supposed to be like snippets of the good stuff, but not a distillate, which I don't know. It's complicated.
Oh, there you go, Graham. Chad knows who this TLC hub person
Well, so
is.
long as they ran it by the Pope, it's fine, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I think there are a couple problems with all of this. I mean, the first idea of like just let people play. I love that idea, except that when you're playing in this world, it comes at a cost or a potential cost, and that cost could be more than people bargain for, especially the way that some people use this platform. And that doesn't mean people shouldn't do it, but there's definitely, I think, some things to wrestle with and what we do when we put this stuff on the internet.
You're talking like employment?
Well, I just mean with some of the things of like what people have tried to do to some of these channels who go out and try to play and have conversations. There's reputation destruction. There are things that happen. And luckily, I don't think many people in this corner have gotten too scathed by that. But people do get scathed by that. And when you're just playing around and you don't have something built to help you sustain it, it can hurt a lot more than if you're thinking of it as some sort of business. But the problem with the business part is that it definitely becomes commercialized. And then there's all of these pitfalls that can come with that. But then the other end, you see the people who are taking this like a business. And I don't know about all of you, but I personally don't think they're putting out as much value as maybe some of the people in this corner who are choosing not to do that. And that's kind of discouraging because that's what gets forefronted as popular. And it has damaging effects. And you'd like to see something else different, but there's not an easy answer to like how to figure out all of those things. And so you wrestle with those questions of how to make this sustainable. And whether it should be sustainable or not, I don't know. But these are the questions I ask myself a lot of the time. And like, I do not want to be the one that blows up, but I would love to see someone who's doing something like Paul, for instance. I would love to see him get more success because I think he's doing things that are a lot more valuable than maybe some of the other people who get really big platforms. But
yeah, well, and he's modeling it well too. And I would trust Paul with the success because he doesn't want it. It's one of those things. The way I think about your number one, like the costs, I'm just like, what is number? Well, I mean,
no. She's not mistaken at all, and you're been spared. I think that if you haven't encountered it yet, like just dropping a link in a live stream. This is the internet. There are a lot of mentally ill people here, and if you have something to lose, you might think twice before starting. It's a lot easier to start when you have nothing to lose. Because I mean, like, or if you're Canary Protocol,
and even not mentally ill people who feel like they have a moral obligation to stand against something that they think is abhorrently evil, but they don't have the whole story. Like they can do a lot to destroy people's reputations. And thankfully I haven't seen anything too terrible in this corner, but I've seen things in other places that, yeah, it's a really difficult thing to deal with. And I think a lot of people go into it thinking, I just want to have interesting conversations, and they stumble into it. And it's difficult. It's difficult when you face it, and I hope no one does. Like, I want to make a place where it's easier to have those conversations and be able to play, but it can come, and it's not fun.
I think I mean, I think that's kind of that thing about like being careful for reputation is why like Christian YouTube in general is so boring, like because no one will say the truly risky things or whatever.
Totally.
But I also think like as far as people in our corner, and I would say like I have a second project, and that one I basically hardly ever put anything on there because I do only want to put stuff that's like central to the brand and like good quality. This, my personal things just for whatever floats my boat at any given minute. But a big part of, where I started off, and I think I see Pete with his strange theology channel. I think he's doing a really good job. I think there's a really big need to bridge some of that gap between like what's going on here and Christian YouTube, because I think there is in evangelical Christianity, as much as many people in our corner have like come out of that because of bad experiences, it's still a huge and mostly well-functioning like worldview creating machine. And there's a lot of people that can go in there and live their life in a modernist / postmodernist frame, and it does all the things that it needs to do. But but eventually it will become like unrecognizable to the outside world or whatever. And I think that what they have as strengths is really, obviously they're designed to be welcoming and friendly to newcomers, and their facilities and stuff. Like, I don't think there's an Orthodox church that's going to be hosting a seminar or a meetup in their sanctuary and letting us just talk about whatever we want in there, but you can do that in an evangelical church. It's just a multifunctional box for the most part, and so I think that, because that was kind of the thing that I saw, like, and everybody is being affected to this to some degree, like, because the algorithms are having an effect. Because I go to a men's Bible study at my church every week, and everybody in that group is, like, going on YouTube, and maybe they are watching the preachers and the teachers that they feel comfortable with, but that algorithm has some stuff that's suggesting that's a little bit weirder and a little bit more on the fringe, and so eventually it gets there. So I think that is kind of like where that but most people in that like Christian YouTube space content the way that people like in this corner do. It's just like
we're antithetical to what YouTube wants, and it's important to remember that, I think, because what YouTube wants is you sitting by yourself adding view time to one video. It's one of and then it's like, oh, you like this one, so maybe Bob will like it, and I can have 6 people watching the same video not talking to each other. Yeah. Because the atomization and the isolation is what cults want, and because the cults want people that are easy to manipulate, and the easiest people to manipulate are the isolated. So what we're actually doing is sort of working against them.
Well, and I do think too, like, as far as Luke's concerned with like the mammon thing, I think, I don't know, we're imperfect people. We, I think the impulse for like Christians or whatever to do everything like in the most pure way possible is unproductive a lot of the time, or it's a stumbling block to get people from doing something. And if you
Or you'll
look
be
at, like,
tricked that way by the principalities.
well, I think, if you look at that parable that Jesus tells in Luke 16, so really great. I know Paul's mentioned like Luke 15, prodigal son, whatever, the two sons, and Kenneth Bailey, like basically, there's another book that just came out. It's called The Surprising Genius of Jesus. It's awesome. But basically, the guy's showing like, okay, the Pharisees or whatever start grumbling about stuff, and Jesus tells this little short story, and he's like, remember every story in the book of Genesis and how you're interpreting them all wrong, because God is a loving and redemptive God. And then he turns around to his disciples and he tells the thing about the shrewd manager who's like canceling the debts and stuff, and he's like, use money to win friends, and then you can, like, convert them to the kingdom. So I think that there is this weird, like, it's very it feels dirty to us, like, to have this like mercenary kind of approach to technology or tools or money or whatever. But if we can see them for what they are, and it's the thing and not the evil spirit behind the thing, then we should use it for as much good as we can. And we may not do it perfectly, like, because that's the thing. It's like, hey, I would really love the ego boost of having like my channel take off or whatever, but I'm glad that it's not happening, because it would probably be bad for me personally. But if no one ever comments on my stuff anymore, I probably would just stop doing anything, so there's a give and a take.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an easy answer, right? Because in order to create anything, you have to be willing to be imperfect in it. I think with the idea space, there's more risk than, say, you make videos about, a certain type of culture or food or fashion or whatever. There's just a different risk to it. And I think you should count those costs before you go in. But I mean, I wouldn't have created if I didn't think there was a worthwhile risk to it. I do think there's probably questions we need to be asking on how do we get better at making a community to support each other in these kind of efforts, so that we can together not fall into the pitfalls of what the appeal of fame, fortune, and views can do. Because, it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, even if that terrifies you, there's those things can change you. And there's certainly an appeal to those things. I think we're lying if we don't say that there is a piece of that, because you don't create something and hope that the only people who sees it is your grandma and your mom. I mean, especially if you put a lot of like time, effort, money into it. But yeah, there's definitely a sort of there's sort of a piece of that becomes tricky when the ability to get fame and potentially money from this thing, it has the ability to corrupt. And no one's ever going to handle that perfectly, but I think there's a lot of creators who don't think about that well. Like I've been listening to a lot of interviews with Mr. Beast, and he talks about how he wants to be the best YouTuber ever and make the best YouTube videos ever. And like, he certainly created a formula to dominate the platform. But my question is, does that equal best?
Yeah, what is success?
Yeah.
It's being of service to the platform. Because as long as he's doing that, YouTube is happy to help.
Well, in some ways, in his mind, it's in service to the audience, because he's giving his audience what they want to see. But again, there's that question of, is that best? There's a lot of dangers that come with that. Now, he could be creating a lot worse things than he does, but there's whole complications with the things that he creates, and upsides and downsides to those things. But
yeah,
that question I thought was interesting. Well, what is best? Because I don't think the best videos that, or I don't think the most popular videos that get a lot of views are the best form of like idea exploration. I think sometimes they promote kind of toxic participation that break down relationship, and
sure.
that's tricky. That's difficult to like face that reality, and it's more difficult to face the reality that I am not immune to falling into that same trap.
I think, I don't know, personally, I would say if anybody considers himself as part of the corner is expecting anything as far as fame and money, that they need to put the crack pipe down and reconsider, because that's, I mean, you could call Paul the king of the corner if you want, and he's at like 25K. So like fame is not going to come from here, but being of service to each other and making friends and feeling not alone, that we can do.
Yeah, and that's totally where I want to be. I mean, what Paul does with his channel, like that's what I've always used social media for. The only social media I've ever been on is Twitter, and I got off that, like, I don't know, 7.
He says is he's streaming on YouTube.
No, but this one. So this one, I was on Twitter and I was on this one. But the way that I've always used it was, it's just me thinking out loud. It's like a diary. That's what I did on Twitter. That's what I do here. That's what when I start a stream, that's just what I'm doing. I'm just thinking. And very often I'm trying to think ahead of my head. That's why I'm trying to do the off script thing. I'm not giving you scripted stuff. I'm not giving you canned answers. I'm not giving you stuff that I've thought about. I mean, I think about the stuff all the time, but I'm not like formulating it and writing it down and getting it all right and then presenting it. I'm doing the total opposite of that. It's just process. And that's the way I think. I mean, and I'm capable of doing that. Like that's what, Ty was saying.
And to say someone couldn't game the system in this little corner to gain fame and fortune, I think is probably not correct. I think a lot of us are not looking for that. So we haven't seen it. But, Aaron put in the comments, like, Peugeot went to Daily Wire. Like, and he's obviously somewhat of a joke, but like they certainly are more interested in views and clicks and those things than probably most of us in the corner. If we don't think that spirit couldn't infest this place, I think we're looking at it a bit naive.
I think, like with Peugeot, though, these no longer, like, I remember when Peugeot and Vervaeke both came on and talked with Paul, and it sounded to me like they were trying to get him to sell out.
Yeah,
and
no, I totally remember that exact thing.
Ended up on Daily Wire. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's two paths, and once you take the other path, you can't really be part of the corner anymore, because you have to do what it takes to get to where they're going. So I'm not saying we're not going to get people that start here and then we lose them to the path of fame and fortune, but I think if they take it, they won't be us anymore.
Yeah, my one interaction with Jonathan Peugeot was that he asked me to remove a video where I was critical of things that he said, and I changed to yep.
Nice.
In the comments, I can share it. It's unlisted. But yeah. So
how dare you? How dare you?
I want all the videos where everyone's critical of what I say. I mean, I don't. So am I. This is like that's what Rogan's appeal is. He's just like, I don't believe what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just rolling.
I thought you were.
Right. I hope I've shattered some delusions. Bye, buddy.
Watching these things, but I've come around to enjoy your perspective on stuff a lot. So,
well, thank you. That's great. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to be. It's probably why I've always felt somewhat isolated in a room, and I'm this weird because I'm extroverted and I like people, but I'm one of those people that can feel kind of alone in a room because I'm always just like, because I don't really like playing social games and stuff. Like I really am, as much as I'm self-aware. I'm kind of the same everywhere, all the time, in every context. Like I'm not, provided, like I have a little bit of decorum and stuff, but usually that's out of consideration for other people. It's not like I'm self-censoring, and I don't know. I just feel like it's not like, sometimes I wonder, like it's not that everybody has to be that way. Like hopefully I'm not enough of a narcissist or like a monarchist that I'm just like I need everyone conformed into my image. Part of that's just the way that I am, and it's fine. People don't have to be like me, but I want people to be fully authentic to themselves.
Speaking of narcissists.
What up, Gavin?
Hello. I just wanted to say, hey, I liked what Grimgris said just now about, potentially selling out. So
That's my concern. Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a concern, but I think does sell, just because some people can sell out to get a big following, does it therefore mean that every time someone has a big following, it means they sold out? Not necessarily. Maybe they built something that was valuable that people saw that still stuck to their integrity, you know? And I think that's where, as creators, it shouldn't be avoiding any sort of success. Although, like, certainly be wary of the dangers, but like, how do we do that without losing integrity, without selling out? And that's,
well, I'm worried about my job. Like what I say online impacts my company's image, and they could potentially fire me if I say something that brings bad attention toward them, right? So I'm still like, I still have restrictions on what I say, and I try to when I'm being smart.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, we talk about self-censorship. Sometimes it's good to not say every intrusive thought that runs through your head. Like, it's just not, that's not how you build healthy relationships with yourself or others. But there's also that downside where if you're so self-censoring, you refuse to say the thing that needs to be said or that should be said. And, you know, we're all learning how to figure that out. And that's what I think this little corner is about. It's giving that space to work in that participation with a little bit less of a cost. But because it's the open internet, there's always that chance that there's going to be that cost. I don't know.
For sure.
All right, guys. Yeah, let's closing remarks. I gotta go do some stuff.
Me too.
Nice hat.
I just wanted to say, hey, I had to put on my suit. I didn't bring my tie, but thank you, Luke. Thank you, Cassidy. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back and listen to all this. So.
Sweet. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for everyone coming. Always good to see you, Cassidy. Michael, I've appreciated interacting with you increasingly over time. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Yo. Here, what last one? Would it be hard, bad for PDK to have found his own non-lame mini Daily Wire? Probably. Yeah. Oh, Paul, you have a closing remark?
Paul, answer Nathan's question.
He's thinking. Oh, he's probably getting his audio figured out. Such a better camera. Look at this. Is this your office camera?
Oh, we can't hear you, Paul.
We can't hear you, Paul.
You've been muted.
You muted
by the
yourself.
YouTube gods.
I can't unmute you because you've muted yourself. There's nothing I can do.
Okay.
There
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I moved. Anyway, look at this. I am losing authenticity as I improve. And Luke, the king of authenticity, says this is much better. There are the tensions. They're right there.
I can see you better. But yeah, I mean, you probably get better clicks with better cameras, better lighting, huh?
Well, actually, I just moved the camera and put it right over my monitor, so it looks like I'm looking at you.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's Cassidy's point about these tools. We're still using these tools. There's no getting around these tools.
Yeah, new Christian. He's got that worship pastor microphone set up. He knows what he's doing. That's the hot ticket on his videos.
Hourly wire.
All will be the hourly wire. I can put out more content than Daily Wire all by myself.
Probably.
I think you do, Paul. If you break it all down.
But we'll have our own Daily Wire. No, these thoughts. I mean, what you guys are. I was listening as I was driving over here, and no, these are really important conversations because. I mean, it's interesting to listen to Grizz talk about this because, well, you know, on one hand, nobody does more branding and more self-promotion, and you know, nobody worked harder at getting monetized than poor Grizz. and part of it is once this becomes your main sustenance. I mean, that's a big piece of this too. And I have a degree. I'm super interested in what Jonathan wanted you to take down, Michael. I'm going to talk to Jonathan in a half hour. But this stuff is so fraught. And you can see, I think, all of the tensions. So I'm preaching now in beginning of Mark, and all of these tensions are in Jesus' Galilean ministry. Because, who is Jesus? What should he do? And he's got these mobs of crowds following him, and he heals a leper and says, "Now don't tell anybody."
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the guy goes and tells everybody. And so is Jesus saying not tell anybody a super slick marketing thing? Is it self-effacing? I mean, and part of what I'm getting out of the Gospel of Mark right now is that I really think this is, like Bauckham says, this is eyewitness accounts. And like in last week's sermon, at one point, the leper says to Jesus, "If you are willing, you can heal me." And Jesus is indignant. And none of the commenters know what that means. And I think it's there because Peter was standing next to him, saw Jesus' face, remembered the face, wrote it down, didn't write it down, but it got all along the way. And nobody knows why Jesus is indignant. And so, this is all so beyond us. I really love the conversation this morning. I think it was a super helpful conversation for me because I deal with, if I think 2024 is going to be sort of the year that we see what happens with living stones. And then I'm going to have a crisis because right now, while I get some money from the membership thing, I mean, that's been sort of the most stable form of income from this YouTube thing for me. And I'm really glad we started it, not just because of money, but because now I can do a live stream with Laura and she can talk unfiltered. And as Luke said in the comments, the best stuff in my channel is like listening to Laura unfiltered.
She's good. She's good. I just appreciated your guys's. There were so many masculine, feminine anathemas in there. I was like, oh, I see why this is not put out in public. It's fantastic.
But so one of the things that I've wrestled with is it's Jesus' seamless garment that the centurions cast lots over because it was the one thing that Jesus owned that they said, "Oh, we don't want to rip this up and use it for rags." And I thought you said it beautiful, Michael, with Luke 16, right after Luke 15. There's Luke 16. And it's like, gosh, Jesus just nails this stuff. And we're always just struggling to keep up. So how this goes, boy, I don't have any idea, but I thank God. I'm thank God that the channel is still as small as it is. And it really is small in many ways, but I don't know where this goes. And I'd rather not be a cautionary tale, but that's another way to be used by God.
Just don't sell out, Poobah.
But the question is, what does selling out mean? Because we're all blurring lines, and you are too, Luke. I mean, you are Mr. Authenticity. But that,
Me?
but when that becomes your brand, which it has been, now there's audience capture for Luke to stay on message. And because you do have a mask. And, even you who is so, I mean, the fact that you are a chaos creature in this corner, I know Jacob always is offended when I call him that, but, he is and you are too, just in very different ways. You almost can't make a splash if you're not a chaos creature. So, fortunately for you, you have a wife that things get out of hand. She's going to pull the plug on you, which is what she's there for, because you are not only the Luke that we have here, you're also a father and a husband and a provider. And, Michael, same way. So I don't know. Now I'm rambling. But you
All
guys,
right.
I've loved the live stream this morning. It was so helpful to me.
Well, that's good. It's a good side benefit. I'm just doing it for funsies.
Well, and you know, in a lot of ways, and you know, I think Michael and Grim see this too. I made this. I mean, Michael, when you said I just need a few comments. I mean, that was so true, because that's how I got into this thing. I just wanted someone to talk about Jordan Peterson with.
Right.
Yeah. I want to know I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that thinks this way.
And I only need a handful of people to help me know I'm not crazy. I don't need 1,000. And so, but then all of this happens, and it's like, okay, Lord, I'll go along, I guess. You know, we'll see where it goes, and hopefully it doesn't destroy my soul or hurt my family. I mean, again, I'm serious. At 2,000, I thought seriously about shutting this whole thing down, because I thought, do I need this? But there were so many emails and comments, and I thought, oh, other people seem to need this. So, okay, I'll keep going. But there are still days when I think, what am I doing? This is nuts.
Yeah, this is that's one of the reasons I love this space. Like, that's what I'll tell my wife when I just like talk to her for a while. 'Cause I mentioned this the other day when I was rambling something to her, and she's like, "This is the first time ever that I felt like I was talking to like somebody with schizophrenia, like, and saw it in me." And I was just like, there are people who like think what I have to say is valuable and like helps them. There are those people out there.
No,
Well,
and
that's
you
a powerful
are,
drug.
Luke. And part of what's made this corner beautiful is you might have to deal with somebody there, Luke. It's ironically on Grail country. I don't know. And that's what's been so beautiful, is that, there are corners of the corner, and there's kind of the reformed clique with Michael and Phlebas and, some of the, and Ash. There's some of the reformed guys, and then there's the people who've gone to orthodoxy, but it hasn't made them strange. Yes, too strange. And there's the anarchist corner. There's all of these corners, and to me, that's what's made it beautiful.
One body, many members, and we're not cutting off members. I like it. All right. Thanks for playing, friends. I'm gonna shut her down.
All right. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Luke.